So welcome everyone once more. My name is Maze Tochukwu Ezoke. Now this is Njenje Media TV. As you know, we have this Nigeria at 61 series. This has been going on for the last 1 week. I've had the privilege to have Dr. Philip Idewo and also the former Deputy CBN Governor in the person of Professor Kingsley Mogul. And we have looked at Nigeria at 61 and what that meant for us and where we could be going from here. Now, today, as I did mention to us last week, I am here in the studio with someone many of you know very well, and someone many of you who would, many of you will think, wow, Mazi, how come? I have the privilege to have a rare person here that is in the person of Pastor Sunday Adelaja, who is the founder and the senior pastor of the Embassy of the Blessed Kingdom of God for All Nations, an evangelical charismatic mega church and the church of denomination in Kyiv, Ukraine. Pastor, you're welcome to Njenje Media TV.
Thank you so much, Toshiko. It's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much, and thank you for accepting to be part of this conversation. Now, for many of you who may not know, he is a mentor to so many people. He is also an author of over 400 books. He's a philosopher, a motivational speaker. Once more, I say, nice to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's kick the ball rolling. Before we start, now, as I said at the beginning, you have written over 400 books. How do you draw inspiration? And when did you start writing?
I started writing books in 1995. That would be like 26 years ago. So, but the inspiration is very easy for me to actually get inspiration. Number one, because I try to, being a spiritual person as a pastor, I try to maintain relationship with the Spirit of God. I have the connection in the Spirit, so I could pick up information, spiritually speaking. Because writing is about inspiration. When you read the books of great writers, they talk about inspiration a lot, about how inspiration come to them, moves. They talk about moves and things. So, but when you are spiritually awoken and aware, then to get inspiration is going to be very quick. That is one place I get inspiration from. Another source of inspiration for me has been the Bible. The Bible, when I read it, I see a lot of lessons. But for the Bible to become a source of inspiration and a source of innovation for you, you've got to stop looking at it as a religious book. And you've got to begin to look at it as a book of principles. So, for example, when they brought the woman that was caught in adultery to Jesus, and they said, now you've got to stone her because she's been sinning. And Jesus said, don't stone her. Where is the other man? And things like that. And he said, any one of you that is without sin, you can go ahead and stone her. But no, then they all turned away and left. But so when I look at that story and I see the way I've been hearing about it being preached in the churches when I was growing up, it's just like a story, an illustration, and how God is good. But I discovered that no, that's not what Jesus was trying to tell us. He was trying to tell me that I shouldn't throw stones at people as well. I shouldn't condemn people. I shouldn't judge people. So something like that. So when I get that kind of principle, I turn the lesson into a principle. And when it becomes a principle like that, okay, do not judge, then I begin to use that story only as illustration, but I look for the main principle. For example, when, somebody was healed on a Saturday, and Jesus said, now all these Pharisees were saying, why should you be doing this on Saturday? This is a holy day. And he said, this daughter of Abraham has been sick 38 years, and you are concerned about Saturday? So that tells me something. What's the principle? I look for it. What's the principle here? And I say, the principle is that never look for an excuse to help people. When it comes to helping people, giving a helping hand, no excuses. Always help people. It's always the right time to help people. So that could become another title for me, for example. Never give an excuse. So I use Bible as an inspiration, but looking at it not as a religious book, but as a book of principles.
Wow. Wow, that's a book of principles. Obviously, those are one of the nuggets that I do obviously have to write down. Now, you know, if my mathematics doesn't fail me, and I'm looking at it, you've written over 400 books. If I divide them by, if I divide it by 26 years, that gives me about 16 books a year. Now,
Yes.
that is more than one a month.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, there are people who don't even read one book a month. So how come you write that so much book?
It's about discipline, sir. What I do is that whenever I want to write, I set aside 2 days a week. That is Tuesdays and Wednesdays, or Tuesdays and another day. And then that day, I make sure I sit down for minimum 10 hours, 10 to 15 hours. That day is only for books. So, and by the time I get up in that time period, I would have written maybe 20,000 words. And 20,000 words, that is like, 15 pages of book. So by the time I see the next time, I've written another 20 to 30,000 pages. So words. And that's another, 200, another 100, 20,000. Okay, in total, by the time you write 20,000 plus 20,000, I'm going to 200 pages. So 200 pages in 2 days, 200 pages book, or 250 pages. That's basically the size of my books. So, but sometimes when I'm free and I'm not, like when I go on vacation or holidays, or when I have what I call solitude, I have a whole week to myself. So I could write 10,000 words every day. So 10,000 words every day, from Monday to Friday, that comes to 50,000 words. And that's about 200 to 300 pages book. So for me, it's just very straightforward like that. And I've trained a lot of people to write that way too. People who had never written books in their lives, they now say, after I've trained over 200 people to write books. Now, all these 200 people, they write books like, at least some of them who are more proficient, they write books a book a week. And some of them write a book a month. But there is none of them that doesn't have the ability to write a book a month.
Wow. Maybe I need to enroll in that. Because obviously, it's when I looked at the number of books you've written, I'm like, 400 books? Are they like pamphlets? Are they like 10, 20 pages book? But no, these are books 200 pages upwards, and I'm saying kudos.
Yes.
Now, having said that, aside your Christian life, what is the philosophy that guides you?
My main philosophy is, actually, let me tell you the story of how I came about it. When I grew up in a very small village in Nigeria, near, not far from Lagos. It's in Ijebu-Ode, but Ijebu-Ode, just outskirts of it, is a village there called Idomila. So, but it's only about 40 huts or houses, and only about 200 people in that whole village. So when I was growing up there with my grandmother, and the reason was because I never knew my father, and I had still not met him. I never met him. I don't know him. And my mother too, I never knew her growing up until I was in my teenage years, because she had married, she married into the family of my father, and they had a quarrel or something. So she came back to her father's house when she was 6 months pregnant of me. And then she gave birth to me. But before I came to consciousness, she had remarried and left to another state. So I didn't get to know her. I only knew my grandmother. Now, my grandmother got sick of cancer when I was 15. And by 16, she had died. But all those years, 15 years, she was bringing me up. I was a very stubborn child. And I caused a whole lot of trouble for her. So when she was in the hospital for 1 year, it gave me a time to rethink and to say, oh, wow, this lady has been struggling for me. And I pray that she will get well, and I will, try my best. I started making vows to God that I will, I will become a better child. I will attend to her. I will take care of her. I will become successful. I will go abroad. I will, take care of her, build a house for her. I started dreaming of all the things I wanted to do, because it's when you lose something that you begin to value it. But unfortunately, she never came back. She died a year after she was taken away from the village. And so it pained me so bad and so much that I wanted to just commit suicide or just go and end my life. But since I didn't die, I told myself, because the pain that I was experiencing was, this lady did so much for me, and I never had the opportunity to say thank you to her. And she never even got to see the better side of me. She never knew that I had changed in the 1 year she was away from home. So I said, now that I didn't have time to buy the car for her, to build a house for her, to take care of her, to do anything for her. She only knew me as a silly and naughty boy. So now I said, God, now that I didn't have the opportunity to appreciate and show gratitude to my mother or to my grandmother, please, I vow to you now that anybody that I see, anytime I have an opportunity to say thank you or to appreciate somebody, that I will never even pass by anyone that I could do good to and fail to do that good. So my philosophy of life was given birth to at that particular time, when I was saying, no, I would never pass by anybody that I could do good to, that I could show kindness to, that needs my help. I would never pass by. And when in my own mind, it's a way of expressing gratitude to my grandmother, and also never to repeat the pain that I had experienced when I couldn't say thank you to her. So I didn't want to experience that pain again. I would never like it to happen again, that I could help someone and then I missed the opportunity and then the person died or suffered or something like that. So that is where my philosophy of life was born. But then soon after that, I became a Christian. I became what they call born-again Christian. And then it was even established more because I got to know about the Bible, about God, and things like that. So my whole philosophy of life is to do practical things to ordinary people that is in need of it. Show practical love. Touch people. Everybody needs a touch of love. Make sure that you never pass by anybody without touching them, without making them to feel that touch of love. So, for example, I started a movement recently on the internet and on Facebook, and I went against all my elite, quote unquote, GO bishop friends. And the reason I did that was because I saw what they were all doing, exploiting poor people. And even though I was in good relationship with them and I was enjoying their company and we were having our own privileges among ourselves, but I had to go against all those things, all those practices, because I couldn't just keep on, witnessing and seeing how ordinary poor people have been oppressed. People taking money from them in the name of tithe and offering and not giving anything back.
We will come. I will come to that.
Okay.
It's part of one of the areas, obviously, I would want to indeed explore. Now, having said that, you've given the background how you stayed with your grandma and how everything, obviously, may God bless her soul, and eventually you gave your life to Christ. Now, how did you find yourself in Kiev? Is it the story of Jonah, who was swallowed and spooked out somewhere else?
Brilliant. Now, what happened was that she died when I was 16, and I had 1 or 2 years more to go, 16, 17. I think maybe 1 or 2 years more to go in secondary school. And then I had a brother in Russia, Moscow, Russia, that wrote to me, and a sister in Nigeria, and they were telling me, hey, Sunday, now you are the only one. I was the only one living in the village with my grandmother. They had grown up and they were all on their own. And they were telling me, if you don't pass WAEC, because they knew I was stubborn and I was not studying, I was just playing around. And they didn't, but they also knew that I had changed while she was sick. And they saw how I really was sorrowful, that I had godly sorrow. So they were telling me the key is to make your WAEC. WAEC in Nigeria, for people who are not Nigerians here, is like school living certificate, the secondary school living certificate, the exam that you have to pass it. School living exams. So that I had to get as good result as possible. I had to make sure that I pass it. That if you don't pass it, you will remain in that village. And that village, to me, it was an epitome of, I mean, it was, similar to suffering. It's an epitome of suffering to me. So I knew that they said you just become a farmer in the village and become a villager. So you've got to pass. I said, And then I was having a dream. I always knew inside me I had to travel abroad. So I knew that my brother got a scholarship by going through the newspapers. So I started buying newspapers when I finished secondary school. And I started looking for anywhere I could find newspapers. Those days in the 80s in Nigeria, they used to put adverts in the national newspapers for scholarships. So that is how I applied for scholarship to US. I mean, they call it Bureau of Education or something like that. So I applied there. So anyway, eventually I got a scholarship offer. There were 300,000 applications, and they only gave 300 scholarships. So we went for interviews and exams and all those things. And, I was lucky enough, but I wanted to go to America because America was my first choice, England second choice, Russia was my third choice. But when I was about to leave Nigeria, because I actually got my first choice to go to Columbia University in New York. But I went to my pastor at that time. I got born again that time, about a few months, maybe 4 months, 3 months. And I went to speak to a Deeper Life pastor. This was a Deeper Life. People in Nigeria know Deeper Life denomination. So I was talking to the man that I have a scholarship to the US, but I have other options like England and USSR. Then he said, you better go to USSR because there, even though they don't know God, but at least it's not so corrupt. If you survive it in Russia, you will survive it everywhere. But America is too full of temptation for you as a young believer. So I just went and I said, okay, no, I changed my admission to Russia. And since I had a brother in Moscow, that was good for me. So that's what I did. And, the rest is history. When I got to Russia, of course, I was disappointed. I wanted to go back to America, but it was too late. But anyway, that's what happened. But my brother helped me. He met me there, and the rest is history.
Okay, I mean that's a very fantastic, obviously a very fantastic lesson there. I must confess. Before we came online, I know you are in Kiev, that is in Ukraine,
Yes.
right? So that was before they broke apart.
Yes.
Okay. So now in Kiev, I had my own experience of trying to fly to Kiev, and got myself in Kiev.
In Kiev.
It's only one letter different, but the rest is also history. Now, having said that, let's come down to part of the series that I'm having this week, which is Nigeria at 61. Now, if you look at Nigeria today, what do you think after 61 years of age? If you take Nigeria, just opposing it to the Committee of Nations, how do you think Nigeria has fared?
When I left Nigeria, at that time, they used to give everybody has an opportunity to, exchange. You can exchange some money. I didn't have much money to exchange, but I only had 20 naira. But that 20 naira was going to give me $25. 20 naira was going to give me 25 in 1986, $25. Now, so can you imagine that 20 naira will give you $25? And then you could go to England without visa. So this was, but what I really want to emphasize is that the standard of living, or what you call per capita income of average Nigerian at that time, was not very high, because when you hear some people talk, you will have an impression that our standard of living or per capita income was always high. No, it was very low. We were only having the average income in 86, even though our money was strong, but the average income was $300 per person. $300. But what I want to say now is that when I left Nigeria, I got that statistics because I was looking at other countries. I used to read a lot. And I discovered that at that same period of time, that was 35 years ago, China also was earning $300 per capita 35 years ago. So we and China, our per capita income was the same. So I was thinking, oh, so if we were earning the same income for average citizen 35 years ago with China, now China is about 100 times more than what, maybe not 100 times, but we are right now, our per capita is by 2,000 something, 2,500 or something, and China is about 25,000. So 100%, much more than us. Mm-hmm. And so we cannot say we're happy. We cannot even say we're happy about what is happening. But the biggest problem we have really, why we are feeling so deprived and impoverished in Nigeria is because of the rate of growth of our population. The rate of growth of our population is growing too much faster than the rate of growth of our economy. So even if we are going to be growing at 3%, 4%, right, 5%, but an average family is having 5 children, we will not catch up. So I don't know why the Nigerian government is not paying too much attention to that. We need to do the kind of policy that China did. We need to, first of all, slow down the growth of the population so that we'll be able to have the growth of the economy. And later on, when the economy is growing much faster and the economy is stronger, then we could remove that limitation and then, make everything go at a parallel pace. But the way it is going now, no matter how well we do and our economy is doing, it will always be less. We will always underperform because, frankly speaking, so that's on one hand. If we are going to take standard of living and per capita income, we are horribly bad. And that's why they say we are the poverty capital of the world. But if we are going to take general development, I'm not an old man. I'm grown. I'm going to be 60 soon. But at least, even though, there are people who are older than me, but I didn't see the 60s or 40s or 50s. But even in the late 60s or the early 70s that I was growing up in Nigeria, I could see that we have made a lot of progress. Can you imagine that at independence, Nigeria only had, how many medical doctors? Less than 20 medical doctors, maybe even less than that. And how many universities? One university. How many, we've really made a lot. How many highways? Very few highways. How many hospitals? How many roads? How many cities? No major, we were really very backward. But frankly speaking, you could say at independence, Africa, Nigeria, we were just bush. It was just bush. But now we've really made a lot of progress, but that progress is not being felt because we are too many. Because right now, recently I saw a publication on Facebook and I went to cross-check it with World Bank statistics and CIA statistics. It says that Nigeria, it gives, if you look, just go to the internet and look the biggest economies in the world. Nigeria is number 25. And if you look at all the countries before Nigeria, all of them, the youngest of them is 100 years old or 160 years old. Nigeria is the youngest, largest economy in the world, where the gap between us and the next country that is above us in the size of an economy is like 100 years or 60 years. So as a country, when we talk about economy in general, we are not doing bad. We are number 25 in the world, believe it. Most Nigerians will never believe that. We have 200 countries in this world, and Nigeria is number 25. Not bad when it comes to economy. But when it comes to standard of living of people, that is where we have failed horribly bad.
Well, obviously, it's no gainsaying here. You've alluded to that Nigeria is not terribly doing bad, but I think many people would inadvertently disagree with that based on what they can see. But it's neither here nor there. It's an argument that we might eventually explore. But having said that, now you my question again is, do you think, because you just said that Nigeria is not entirely doing bad, my question to you, do you think that we are where we ought to be as a nation after 61 years of staying together?
No, we are not. We are not. And that's why I personally want to come back to Nigeria to contribute my quota. I've contributed a lot to a foreign country, and I'm living in a foreign country right now, partly because Nigeria is not where it's supposed to be. And I think we have underperformed. I think Nigeria is supposed to be at least on the level of a country like Malaysia, Indonesia, maybe even better than them. We are supposed to be competing with a country like India. Because at the point that I was living in Nigeria at that time, our own standard of living per capita income was even higher than that of India, but they had overtaken us now. They have overtaken us now. So we are terribly, terribly behind. But that is not even the greatest failure of Nigeria that I see. For me, the greatest failure of Nigeria is the inability for our government to empower her people. Can you imagine that up to now, Nigeria is only having 55, 60% literacy rate, under 60% literacy rate, which means that half of our country cannot even read or write. We are not even talking English. We are talking even native language. So that is a big failure. Now, a country like Togo, a country like Ghana, a country like Cameroon, all those countries, they are in their 70-something% of their population can read and write. And in French, we have terribly failed in taking care of ordinary Nigeria. And I think our failure is explained more because who are the people we call Nigerians? In Nigerian mindset, the Nigerian mindset is Nigerians are the few elites that speak English. Can you imagine that even when my own president is talking, when he wants to address Nigeria, he's addressing Nigeria in English. So that is what the colonial masters used to do, because that is their language. They speak their language to their slaves. And if you understand, if you don't understand, they have these messengers that will carry the message. But in our own case, we have gotten independence. Let him speak in English. I'm not against him speaking English, but let him use that English. Let it be a compulsory program that every channel, every local channel must speak in their own local dialect to translate that speech of the president from English to the local dialect. Because nobody is translating anything. He's just speaking in English and he's thinking he's speaking to Nigerians. Do you know how many percentage of Nigerians are really, really educated to understand the logic of the president?
Isn't that the case of you have this unity, quote unquote, where you have to have a lingua franca to address a people, and while you do that, you assume, or rather, the concept is that everybody has to understand this language of communication. Now, moving it to interpreting, or rather, moving it to interpretation, probably in their argument could be that it will lead into a lot of conflict, because Nigeria is a nation that has over distinct 285 different languages. So how do you deal with that? If if I go by your argument that the president probably, and well, he might do better if he spoke to us in Fufu there, and or maybe it's in Hausa and other people, because sometimes people say they don't understand what he's saying. But my pushback on that is it will lead into more issues, actually. Don't you think so? That 200, and how do you do 200? Because if you pick one language on the other and leave the other will tell you, well, that is discrimination. So probably in order to avoid all those, that is the reason why you will see, okay, let's have a lingua franca. Don't you think so?
I'm actually in support of the lingua franca. I think we should have one common official language like we have now, English. The president should speak in English. But what I'm emphasizing is that our elite government elite are not concerned that the people who are listening to him are only about 20% of Nigerians. Only about 20% of Nigerians really understand that English he's speaking. The same thing with governors, the same thing with media people. We don't care about Nigerians. The people we call Nigerians are the only 20% elite, well-educated people. Because the other 30% that are also educated, they are speaking broken and, speaking. But the real people who are educated in Nigeria are the top, maybe let's say 40%. So what about the 60% of the country? They are not understanding what's going on. Who are the people we even call Nigerians? Let me tell you this. The people we call Nigerians are among ourselves. We understand one another. We speak English to one another. We go to school. We're educated. But the real Nigerians, the larger number of Nigerians are the people, are the millions who don't even have television, who don't even have radio in their houses, who don't have internet. We talk about internet now in Nigeria. We say we have internet penetration. But the whole total amount of people who have internet in Nigeria, people, not number of services, there's just about 20 million people. Now, 20 million people, we talk about as if everything is good, but what about the ordinary? So what I'm trying to say is that Nigeria is being dominated by a few elite. The problem of Nigeria, why we have failed so terribly, is that some few, it's a battle between the haves and have-nots, the elites and the poor. And the way we have our constitution, our structure has been set up is that the people who have it, they take care of, they have it, they take care of themselves, they take care of the ones, they care less about ordinary people only during the votes. So that's what I'm trying to say, that the way our system is, our failure is explained not because we are poor, we are bad people, but because our elites have not taken responsibility for the ordinary Nigerians. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do understand. In taking that responsibility, if we push back a little bit, and we know when we had independence, there was this agreement where you had the Sadwana saying, my people in the north, they are my immediate constituents, and I will be taking care of them. He became the premier, and he governed, and his concern was for his people. The same applied when Zik and Awo had, Zik thought, okay, he's a one Nigeria, and it doesn't matter if he became a prime minister here, but when the rug was put under his feet, he found himself in the old eastern region. Now, but one thing was clear. The region at that point was doing massively well. Zik came down to the eastern region, now started emulating what Awolowo did by trying to push free education. It led to some conflict because there was no money to finance during the time Udoj then. But eventually, when the subsequent year came, the East then started voting so much money, not only in the primary and secondary education, but also at the tertiary level, that the East had the largest allocation to education almost in Africa then. Now, the point I'm making is, you can see that every region at that point, they were making progress. The Western region was the region that built a television house before even France. So they wanted something for themselves. They were doing it. Just opposite to today, we have a region, or rather a country, where everybody appears to be angry at one another. And we begin to see, oh, this person is the cause, this person is the cause of the issue. It appears that many Nigerians don't probably look into it deeper as to what the issue is. Now, my question to you, Pastor, having looked at all these things and how we started, probably where mistakes we have made, in today's world, we have people saying, break Nigeria into manageable entity, probably that's going to be the solution. Some are saying, restructure Nigeria into the time of 1963, 1960, before the military struck in 1966, the structure that we had then that allowed the regions to develop at their own pace. The Western region then had what they call commissioners or embassies, as some will call them today, in London. And they represented the interest of the Western region then, which were predominantly the Yoruba people. Now, Pastor, if I look at all these things that I've alluded to, and then I ask, what do you think today Nigerians should be demanding in order to have this quote unquote mess that we find ourselves in fixed?
I think the ordinary citizens should be demanding accountability from their leaders. Now, whenever we talk about the old regions, Nigerians forget to note that the old regions only function under Nigerians as Western, Eastern, and Northern region only for less than 10 years, about 6 years only. So
before
all this
coup, or for the military coup.
Yes, and the military took control. And why did they take control? I've listened to that speech by the military when they, when they overtake the government, they always give speech. Yes. I've read that speech many times, and I discovered that the same thing they were complaining about that time is still the same thing we are complaining about today. They were complaining about corruption.
But many will say they were much in a hurry.
Yeah, maybe they were in a hurry, yes, it is possible. But we could say that they were not satisfied. There were problems also in the regions because, okay, I personally think that same Western region that people use as an example, a positive example, it almost led to a breakdown of the whole of Nigeria before the military came. Actually, I think one of the reasons the military came is because of the crisis in Western region. And this is all Yoruba people, and they were infighting among themselves. Biafra, people look at Biafra and think that is the first secessionist and the first major problem Nigeria had. No, before Biafra, Western region was on fire.
Operation Wake.
Yes, Western region was horrible. Things were horrible. That's why they had to depart from that regional setup. And also another proof why the regional setup will not work is because, the Biafra secession also is another argument. So the thing I'm thinking is that I personally believe that the federal system that we are practicing, even though it's not perfect, it's not as perfect as in America, it's not, but they have different federation systems. The federation in America is different from the federation in Switzerland. The federation in Switzerland is different from the federation in Germany. The federation there is different from the one in France. So the Nigeria one also is different. We can perfect it. But the way I think what we have right now is much better because the federation unit now, instead of region, it now has central government, state government, and local government. But in all those countries that have different have different understanding of federal government, the real development takes place in the local government. But in Nigeria, up to now, our orientation is still on central federal government. But so I'm thinking, and it's not that they don't have budget for local government. So they have budget for local government, even in Nigerian constitution. But our local communities are the poorest because there is no system that works. There is no system of accountability. So if there's anything to demand really for our people, I don't think it's restructuring. I think this structure of taking care of having budget for local government coming from the central, budget for state government is much more better than just having one central region. Okay. That is what from the experience from all over the world. But because we don't demand accountability from our local politicians and local rulers, for example, look at South or oil-rich Niger Delta region. Apart from the allocations that everybody gets, they still get another 13% of the derivation from the oil, which is huge. But if I went to Niger Delta region, and I went to Port Harcourt, Rivers, Bayelsa. They are even worse off.
Yeah, but let me act as an advocate of the Niger Delta. Somebody should say, is their money, and why would they be getting 13% and why not 100% what belongs to them?
And my own question is, that 13%, let me even see the result we have produced from it.
But they are not children. So whatever they wish, they can do with the money. So it's
No,
their money.
but the other is again the same problem of the elite versus the poor. The elite are eating the money. Do you know there are over 6,000 projects that were started in Niger Delta? I have some friends in the UK who are from Niger Delta themselves. Not now, about 6 years ago, no, about 8 years, 10 years ago, they were calling them to come back home to take care of, because they knew some chiefs and something. So they themselves told me the story. They give them contract in their name because they're living abroad. They need to bring technical partners. So they sign contracts and technical partner, everything. And then the guy being in the UK, he says, okay, when will the work start? The politicians were telling him, work, you don't get it. It's not because of work. Take this one is your share. Is it not money you need? This is your share now. You don't need to do any work. That is how we have all those uncompleted buildings. And I mean, the ones that, and the money don't go to ordinary people. So if you are not responsible in the little, the Bible says only the one that is faithful in the little should be entrusted with much more. So I think until we demand responsibility from our leaders on the local level.
Exactly. So don't you think that part of the reason why this responsibility is not being driven the way you and I may wish that it is, don't you think that the structure, for example, I read the comments online, people watching us on across social media platforms, some are questioning, especially those from the United Kingdom, are saying, if the country that colonized Nigeria is 4-1, what stops Nigeria? Probably 6-1 or whatever in one. So in that way, you know that Scotland is quasi semi-independent. The same applies to England, Northern Ireland, and Wales. If that be the case, you have you have the Westminster House as the parliament that govern the whole union. If you drive down to Wales today, you will see when you come in, the first time it happened to me, I thought like probably I've got lost because everything, the signpost is boldly written in Welsh, okay? So with a tiny English translation. Wouldn't such structure help us to begin to demand accountability? Because if something is happening in Welsh, Welsh is not blaming England. They say, like during the time of COVID, England is locking up. World say, well, we are still studying. We are not going to lock up until we find reasons to. Because they are independent, they are not being drilled and driven from the central, from England. Isn't that a system that could help the diversity?
No, it can't. It can't help.
Okay.
The reason why it cannot help is because what you are describing is trying to bring about change from outside in. What I'm proposing is to bring about change by changing the content of character of people from inside out. Anytime you attempt to say, okay, when we change the geographical distribution, just let's change the geography, that people will be different. No, it is the people who implement it. If the people are not changing their mindset, if the people are not different in their value system, if their value is not driving them to serve their people, if their value is all about stealing, even when you break it into smaller units, they will always thinking it will be, now I don't have anybody to question me.
Well, it appears we are then forgetting the concept of psychological attachment. I explain. If someone from Ijabode knows this is their and theirs to make decision to run it the way it should function, they begin to, you hear people, they begin to pay more attention. You hear people say, oh, federal government, in my place, I hear this a lot. Federal government job, oh, now for back head that they carry on. Because if you do as you go be, we go do like this, you go fall off. And that's a very bad concept. That's one of the reasons why things are not working. But if the people had the authority to make decision on their own within their locality, don't you think that they will have more empathy and psychologically clued on to the government in order to develop their place?
Even now, with the bad system we have and constitution, the people can still do it if the people have got it in them. The local government system, they will still allow them to take care of their region if they really want to. The state system will allow them, because the local government people in Nigeria, they are not people that are being imposed on them from the central or from federal government. They are people that are also living among their people. But like, for example, in my own local government in Ijebu, I know one, this is a distant, I know this person. He was the chairman, the secretary to the local government of where I come from. And that person has built 5 houses and sending his children abroad. How? When you are just ordinary secretary. Then my relatives are telling me he's doing well. Why is he doing well? He has a good position now. So even though people, if people's content of character are not changed, they have access to money too, both in local government and states. But it is, even if we give them different government, it is only an opportunity for them to live large, to say, now it's our own.
Doesn't that support the argument I made before? Imagine we're a people, it's just like the former president Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan once said about the analogy he made with yam. Okay, now if people know that in our local languages we don't know that someone is corrupt, what we know is this person native. Yes. And imagine when you come to the clans meeting and you say, Mr. Chairman, Mr. A, this person, he's a thief.
Yes.
Everybody will be shocked. But when you say, Mr. Chairman, Mr. A is corrupt, everybody will look at you, because indeed there is no direct translation in none of the local language to get that understood, because no one sees it as a criminal act. Now, if I use that analogy, if you drive and flip it home, it is the same principle that will say, you now have, like you said in the Niger Delta, control your oil. Give us, to maintain the federal government pay 20%, for instance. The people of Niger Delta will no longer see Abuja as their problem. They will begin to pursue any single individual that has and that commingles their money. Don't you think that is realistic?
No, what stops them from, I will tell you what will happen. What stops them from doing the same thing? What stops
the federal government? Okay, now I tell you. How come Ibori was being pursued by federal government?
Yes.
Now, and they use federal government to get a perpetual injunction, the same federal now, to get a perpetual injunction not to come close to him until he ran away, that he took another country to do the needful for us.
Yes.
Now we have countries and we have situations where one of the ex-governors in Abia State is still the same thing federal. Do you think the people of his state, if they had the powers to decide about his fate, that they would still be waiting until today?
They will. Because let's go back to that Ibori. Even when he was arrested by another country, England, and he was being prosecuted, do you know that the people from his own place who he has shared a little bit of goodies with, the people were coming out to demonstrate and then let Ibori go. He is our own. Is he the only one who is corrupt? And then people even went to England to demonstrate in the court and say, why are you not arresting the other one? Is he the only one who is corrupt? Let him be corrupt, but it's our own corrupt. And the same thing with Alamisiega, or whatever they call Alamisia. The same thing with him. When he came back home, he became a chief. People crown him because corruption has become, our mindset, our value system is our biggest undoing in Nigeria. I have a friend who is a professor from the East, from the eastern part of Nigeria. Very much respected friend of mine, good friend. And he is the head of the clan now because his dad was the head before. Now the dad is dead and he's the oldest. And he is trying to bring some renovation and reformation to the region, to his community. And so he came and organized a family meeting. There is this, we was talking, and so after 1 hour of meeting, one young boy that is, doing some things in Malaysia or Indonesia, just stood up and put 10,000, a patch of money, $10,000. He put it on the table like that. He said, You professor, you in the English we go shop. This is $10,000 here. Let's just do this and this and that. And the man was saying, I was so sure. He said, sit down. In the English we go shop. He said, I was so shocked. I was saying, okay, but let's bring about change to our people. Then all the elders that were sitting and say, hey, you see, he's a small boy. This small boy, if he could bring 10,000, he's right, he's correct. So we are just talking. So that corruption, even among clan, not even state or local government, clan, we are driven by greed. We must look at ourselves in the face and say it. The biggest problem of Nigeria is value system. Our value system are falling. Before, when I was growing up in Yoruba land, it doesn't matter if you are a billionaire or a millionaire. We had them in Ijebu those days. But if you are a graduate or you are a professor, you are always more respected in Yoruba land than if you are rich. But today, nobody cares if you are a graduate or if you are a professor or if you are educated or anything. Everybody wants money. Our value system has collapsed. And I think the greatest undoing of our government is that they are talking about economic terms, a GDP this, 3% this. They are not talking about national reorientation. We have a whole agency on national reorientation in Nigeria. I don't know what they are doing. They are only making announcements, wash your hands, sanitary, do this. No, we need national reorientation big time. That is number one. No nation can be greater than its value system. Nations are actually not great by the virtue of their wealth, but nations are great by the wealth of their virtues. Only the wealth of virtue make a great nation.
I like that philosophy. Now, the question is, how do you get to create a new value system? I mean, while I had similar conversation 3 days ago with Professor Kingsley Morgan, he talked about what the Germans call the Weltanschauung, which is a worldview.
Yes.
Now, the challenge is, by the crop of leaders the nation keep producing, how do you give what you don't have? If you don't have a value system, a worldview that says no to corruption, that says no, that you are not coming into office to amass wealth to buy houses in America and in England, the houses you're not going to live in until you die, and the amass wealth that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations can't even finish, until that value system is changed, that we're not going to make progress. The question then is, how are you going to create that value system? Are you able to make an omelette without breaking eggs?
You are very correct. I like that, your illustration. And I'm a good friend of Morgan, by the way, Kingsley. And I read his book he wrote up when he was running for president. Very good. He emphasized that as well there. But I want to just illustrate something. Look at this. Let's say this is a cup or a vacuum, something inside. And we have balls. So, I mean, let's say this is a cup, and this cup is full of, inside, it is full of ink. But the ink that is inside is black, all black. Then some people bring maybe, let's say, 10 balls, little balls, table tennis balls, and put all of them and soak them in the ink. My question is, by the time you get, that's what you said, by the time we are getting those balls out, what color would they be? They would definitely be black, because the whole thing, the content of that cup is black. So that is exactly what you are saying, that if the whole system is corrupt, if our environment, our mindset of our people is black, why are we looking for leaders? When we say leaders have our problem, what do you expect? The ball stands for the leaders. If you put your hand in in this cup, anyone you dig out will be black, because the whole environment itself the leader can only be in accordance to the environment. It is the environment itself that produces the leader. So what we need to do is that we must first of all change the content of that cup, which is the color. Instead of black ink, let's bring out the black ink, let's pour in the white ink, and by the time it is all white, we put in that white something, even if we put in black, What will come out will be white. That is why in Europe, nobody knows who is the president of Austria or the president of Netherlands, because the whole society. So now, I will answer your question now. How do we do it? How do we do it?
That's the how, because you know the reason why I keep asking.
Yeah, I'm going to answer how to do it now, because that is what I've been doing here in Ukraine for the past 30 years. And thank God we are seeing the result. The way to do it is this. How do you create value system in a society? There are 4 ways of creating new value system society. Number 1, the values of any society comes from their pulpits. Either it's a Muslim or from their religion. Values come from what people believe, and religion is number 1 there. So it doesn't matter, it's Islam, paganism, or Christianity, or anything. So because people believe, and Nigeria is a deeply religious country. We are full of believers. But what are the values that have been propagated in those pulpits, from those churches? What are the virtues? Are they virtues or religion? So what the first thing we need to address, if I'm a leader, a governor, or a president or something, first thing we need to address is this. We must make sure that the government work with this religious organization, not just telling them, pray for us, no, so that we will explain to them to help us raise a new set of belief system that will encourage hard work, that will encourage love, that will encourage forgiveness, tolerance, and things like that. Value system comes from the pulpits. Number 2, where value systems come from? Value system comes from educational system. Now, but we in our own educational system, the way it is set up is that we just go and read book and give exams. But we must go back to those days when we used to have civics. When we used to have, in this country, for example, we have ethics, aesthetics. You know, now I have a whole series of teachings when I was teaching my people here how Americans became who they are. And I was showing them videos of America in the 40s and 50s when they were educating the whole society. They will teach you, not just in schools, but they will use television to educate people how to dress, how to wash your mouth, how to relate to your neighbor, how to greet your wife, how to treat your husband. In America, even, we think these Western countries are just like that by accident. No, they put values in place like strong pillars. So number 2 is educational system. Number 3 source of values, how to create values, is through the media. Now I look at our Nollywood, all those media people we have. It's like we don't have a structure, and I wonder, do they have agency that is helping them? We need to give them a set of values that we want every film to formulate in the mind of the viewer. Just like in America, we think that there are no philosophy and values in Nollywood. There are. If you look at most of the American films, it's always about grass to grace. They call it American dream. A poor person that is coming from nowhere and he became somebody through hard work. Or is always a bad guy that is doing so many bad things, then somebody who is good comes and overcomes the bad guy. Those are philosophies. Those are ethics. Those are values that are being developed in the people. That's number 3. The next place that value system come from is, okay, I've mentioned pulpit or church or mosque. I've mentioned educational system. Have I mentioned the media? Yes, mentioned the media. I've mentioned educational system. The next place that value system come from, which we right now we need to, in Nigeria, it has become a free flow. The next place where value system comes from is from the community. The community, just like we used to have it strongly in like that example that I gave.
But don't you think that the family is the most fundamental place where the
I was just about to go there. That is the final one. The community. So the community, because community influences, because we go to school, we go to public places, we talk to our people, elders, because in Africa they used to have this philosophy that says it is a community that brings up a
Bring
child.
the child, yes.
Yes. You know, even me, when I was growing up, before my grandmother knows what is going on, somebody has already disciplined me.
And reported you as well.
Yes, but we need to go back to that. But finally, the most important one is the family. But why I think that the church and the pulpit is more important even than the family is that the families themselves go to church to get their values. So family is the final one, but family is where the values are practiced.
Now, if we, because you started by the pulpit, which you inadvertently, you christened the religion, the religious bodies. And the religious bodies, okay, in the concept of governance, we push for the separation of states from religion, hence Nigeria becoming a republic. There is no link, it's not interwoven. How does the state then go back and engage with the religious bodies without controlling them?
No, it shouldn't be done like, for example, by the federal government. It should be a community outreach. It's a community corporation kind of thing. Just like we have PPP, private.
But we have over 200. See, when you are given these questions, I want you to bear in mind that we have over 200 ethnic nationalities with distinct language. This is the language so it's not like dialect. These are languages, and they see themselves. So there is no cross-pollination here. They are on their own, this people on their own, this people have their worldview. So if
Let me give you an example. In England, for example, okay. You remember when Al Qaeda was, rampaging America, Europe, there were some mosques in the UK that started preaching the theology and the doctrines of Al Qaeda. And they started empowering all these young Arab Muslims to go and fight the West and things. They started going to Iraq, then they went to Syria and things like that. You know what the English government did? They raided those churches, those mosques, and they told them, these are the values of the United Kingdom. If you want to be in the United Kingdom, you don't preach sentiments that are against other people, that are against the culture here, they gave them rules, and they had meetings with the community. This is not about control. It's having meeting with the religious community and tell them, watch after yourself. If any of these religious mosques will teach this thing, we are going to deport them. And we are going to limit, we are going to close this kind of thing. So what I'm trying to say is that the government is giving direction to the church, not controlling them, but giving them direction that these are the kind of thing we tolerate. So these are the kind of relationship that I'm talking about.
I'm sitting down here and I'm thinking it's really a hard pill to swallow, because when you look at it, which government? Now you said it's not central government. And I'm thinking, which government? State government or local government or the community? That's where you have one, in an entity like Nigeria, you have one section of rule for certain people, and certain people does the same thing. The same rule you just used before now does not apply. So again, because he keeps going back, whatever we discuss, keep going back to the point that there is so much divergence in Nigeria. There is so much disconnect. There is so much, I think that our diversity is actually, it's inadvertently becoming a weakness rather than a strength. Don't you think so?
No, I think every community should do the same thing. Everybody, you don't need to go
driven
to
by who? Driven by, I agree, every community, but driven by who?
By policies of values. For example, when I was growing up, I'm sure when you were growing up too, if you are over 50, you had assemblies. And in the assembly, when I was growing up, primary, secondary school, we used to have priests come or pastors come, and they will lead us in prayers, and they will give us speeches on virtues and values and how to conduct ourselves, that kind of thing. And then the Muslim people will also have their own Muslim clerics come and do the same thing. But it's not being controlled by the federal government. No, every community agreed to do this. But policies in the central government says we are working with religious organizations to be able to sanitize the society. So, but it's not going to be like enforcement, but it's going to be like freedom for every community to decide how they are going to make that happen.
Then can I counter you what you just said now by telling, saying this? When you started, you talked about that one of the things, the downfalls, or one of the things holding Nigerian back is our population. Yes. Everyone knows that, or everyone should know that. Now, if we bring people together to talk about population, I can tell you, we all know, I know, certain people will say, no, it is how the Creator makes it, that the Creator gives children. If the Creator gives me 30, I will. So, by just that statement, he destroys whatever concept and argument you're trying to make, saying, I am willing to be having children even when he's not interested in their upkeep. So how do you reconcile with such worldview on one side, saying, well, I've read this book and everything here says, I can do this and I can do the other one. And maybe you turn to the other side. The other person is saying, well, maybe, yes, I understand, because if my wife works, then I work. Okay, even without you coming to tell me, I know I want my child to go to university. I want them to do this and do the other one. Therefore, well, I can't afford it. So I may only have 3 or maximum 4. Now, we are formulating the same policy for someone who probably have decided that it's going to have 3 children against someone who thinks 27 is, I'm just starting. How do you reconcile that?
That's why we should talk about rule of laws. Okay, we say you had said that our diversity is becoming our weakness. I don't think so. No matter how diverse we are, just like in China, they are more diverse than us. They are like how many times more than us? 10 times more than us? Or the same thing in India. They have bigger than us and they are more diverse than us. 250 nationalities or 370 is not too bad. It's not too big. But that's why we have representative democracy.
But it is, but it is 210 million. It's ballooned. At independence, we're about 45 million. Yeah. As of that time, England is about 42 million. So it can just, I say United Kingdom, but now it's ballooned. United Kingdom is about 65, 67.
70, maximum 70,
So, and you're having an army of unproductive, we have to be real. An army of unproductive people. So how can you create something? You basically have numbers that are adding no value.
I like your point, because you are right. Looking at United Kingdom, there were 40 million at independence when we got independence, and now they've only added 20 million. So let's say 30 billion. They've only doubled. So they've gone from 40 billion to 70 billion. But we went from 45 billion to 200 billion.
Sorry, correction. Yeah, I have the right figure here. It says United Kingdom at 1960 at independence, Nigeria was 45 million. United Kingdom was 52 million, not 42, 52 million. Now, in 2000, the year 2000, Nigeria became 120 million, whereas United Kingdom became 59 million. 7 million in a space of 50 years. Now, in 2021, this year, Nigeria is 210, United Kingdom 67.
My God.
So tell me why.
Now, can you believe this? No, Shuku. Look, this points to what I was trying to say in the beginning, that Nigeria has not really done bad. What has negated all our efforts is our population. Can you imagine that Nigeria has only grown as much? Let's say if we are going to use the equation that with England, we will only be 70 or 80 million now. If we are 80 million today, our standard of living would have tripled. So we will not be talking about a country that is only living on $2 or $2,000 per capita. We'll be talking about a country that's living on $6,000. We'll be middle income economy. So because at independence, our budget, GDP of Nigeria was $1 billion, $1 billion only. So, but now our GDP is about what? 400 billion. So if we divide, if not because of our population, we have really done well. But the population negates it and makes it to be nothing. So, but now, how do we come together and make people to understand that? That's why we have what they call National Assembly. We won't have two of them. We have National Assembly and Senate. So that's why these people represent all of Nigeria, we could say. They represent every region of Nigeria. Now, that's where rule of law comes in. They are supposed to come together and say, no, we are going to take this decision and vote on it. And if they vote on it, everybody should abide by it.
But you've watched them. You've watched someone standing in the National Assembly saying that he has 4 wives, and proudly so, and he has 27 children and 1 coming. Proudly so, and everybody, and when you talk about birth control, and he tells you that the belief system he has, enough. And if that happens at that level, obviously what it means, there is no hope. But having said that, let me come to something more slightly controversial, as it may concern. What's your view on those who think the president calls them the agitators? Some from the presidency calls them the secessionists. Now we have people saying Yoruba nation or nothing.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
I think they are being misled. How? The Yoruba people, the Yoruba nation, they are absolutely being misled. I think they just don't understand it. I think Yoruba nation, Biafra is a result of the frustration, the endemic problems that Nigeria is plunged in. I think let's even imagine this, if Nigeria has been doing well, let's say we are living as well as people living in Europe, nobody would think of Yoruba nation. Nobody would think about Biafra. Everybody will be enjoying their lives. It's because of our failure as a government and as a people, because of the problem. It's as a result of frustration. In the beginning of this program, you said it, that in the 60s, when we had regions, that everybody, you painted a picture of perfection, that everybody was doing well.
Near perfection. Yes.
Near perfection. It was not perfect, but it was excellent, good. And we didn't have these problems that we're having right now. Now, what I'm saying is that there was a time that Nigerians could live together. And everybody was okay, satisfied, developing their own region, right? And nobody even think of breaking or something like that. Now, but today, everybody is saying it's because of the problem, the failure, the poverty, and everything. So if we could live together at that time, I think nothing has changed. We can still live together. The only problem is that our leaders have failed us, our government has failed us, not only on the federal level, but even on the state and local level. And it is as a result of that failure, people are just expressing their frustration. So I believe that Nigeria is better together, and Nigeria will be stronger together, and we will become our destiny. We'll be able to fulfill our destiny together. For example, me, each time I'm in Europe here, each time I see a Black person coming across the street, I automatically think that person is in Nigeria. But then if that person happens to be from Burkina Faso, I'm still so happy because I'm seeing another Black person. But now, if I happen to see a fellow Nigerian, it's like he's coming from my village. I don't even care where he comes from, because we are Nigerians. We are united by something. So I think we should just solve our problems.
So do you think the agitators, I mean, you've just basically described them, that they are, I would say, ill-informed or not knowing what they are doing. Question is, what do you think drives the agitation?
Frustration. I think it's frustration. I don't think it's because they don't want to live. I don't think because Igbos don't want to live with Yorubas. I think they want to live with Yorubas. I don't think because the Yorubas don't want to live with Igbos, or they don't want to live with Hausas. I think they want to live. I think what is driving it is the frustration of not being fulfilled. And so they come up with they now magnify the issues and say, okay, it is because we have a Fulani that is dominating Nigeria, or we have a Fulani president or a Hausa president. I think it is just because of the frustration of not being fulfilled that is making, yet before the Fulani president, we had a Yoruba president. We had a Yoruba president. Nobody said we should break Nigeria at that time. We had an Ijaw president. Nobody said we should break Nigeria at that time. And soon, in less than 2 years' time, we are going to have an Ijaw president again, or a Yoruba president again, or an Igbo president. It's not going to be an Hausa president again. So, and you have already broken Nigeria already. I mean, those are just temporary. We shouldn't ever take permanent decision based on temporary discomfort.
But why do you, I mean, okay, granted, people are not happy. So why is the government not addressing the things that makes the people not being happy?
I think the government really, for me personally, I think this government is doing much better than the government we had, the last government.
What can you elaborate, please?
Oh yeah, I see the infrastructure that is being built. Well, if can you imagine that if Obasanjo or Jonathan has built the same railway set that we are now seeing, has taken care of the airports like we are seeing now, and have taken care of just infrastructural development of the country. Let's say all those things have been taken care of. Today, these people who would have needed to do that now, they would have been using the money to maybe empower people or to develop people or something like that.
Are the people protesting and demanding Oduduwa nation and the Biafran nation as a result of lack of infrastructure, or as a result of them having the little they have? Like many people will tell you, before the incident in Iganga happened, where people go to farm, many will not return. Where people be on the way, they will be waylaid, the women, nasty things done. Mm-hmm. And people were complaining. The deafness of the government became even to a point that until the people started, the agitation became so loud that the government then began to sort of begin to try to wake up, but not yet woken up, but trying to wake up. So don't you think that if those perceived, quote unquote, injustices were addressed in a timely manner, that we may not see the agitation the way it is today?
Yeah, I think people who are agitating are not agitating for infrastructure for sure. Exactly. Because they don't understand it. They are agitating for bread on their table, mostly. But the ones who have now caused Oduduwa nation or Yoruba nation because of Igagan, that is not fair. That is actually a misleading, unfortunate thing that has happened to Yoruba land, that people believe that Sunday Igboho. Because if we are going to talk about insecurity in Nigeria, the people who are who are hit worse and who are hit hard are not Yoruba people, and they are not Southwest people. The people who are really suffering from the bandits and the Fulani herdsmen and the bandits are Northerners. So why is it that the Northerners are not saying, let's break Nigeria because of that? No, so breaking is, I think they have exercised more maturity in the North in that sense. Those
So it means it's then good and better to die in silence. So because they're not speaking, the Yoruba shouldn't speak.
No, they are speaking. But the way they should speak is that let's resolve our problems together. Let's confront the issues we have, but not let's break the country. Because, I live in a country that used to be Soviet Union, one country, now is broken down into 15 countries.
And are they doing better now that they are broken down?
No, they are doing worse. And half of them have gone through.
They are not doing, Tallinn, Ukraine, where you are.
Yes.
Exactly, Estonia.
Yes.
I've been to Estonia.
Yes.
I've seen the rapid, accelerated
growth.
Development
Yes.
that I've had.
Yes.
And you're telling me that the old SSR is doing worse, where you have Yugoslavia and
Yugoslavia,
Croatia and co.
Yes.
And they are all doing bad.
They are also doing worse. And let me tell you what, because I live here, but there are 3 states in the former Soviet Union that are really doing well economically. That is Estonia, that is Lithuania, and that is Lithuania, Latvia. Yeah.
Latvia.
Now, but what people don't know about those countries is that Latvia used to have 4 million people before the breakup. Do you know how many people is left now? Less than 2 million people.
What happened to 2 million?
Because they went away. They went for a better life because they became part of Europe and they left the country. So of course, the country, with standard of living is better, but the people who live there will tell you the story of the horrible stories that have happened to them. But the all other ones, they are living worse. And the reason is because before just like Nigeria, when we got independence, we had a dream that everything is going to be good. But no, you have to go through the process of building a nation all over again. And that process of building the nation all over again will take years. Either you are America, either you are England, either you are Germany. If you break up as a nation to start and you don't have the basis infrastructure like we don't have now, you have to go through years, decades to just start all over again. And there will be infighting also. There will be people from your own people who will say, no, we want to have our own street. We want to have our own town government. We want to have they will not, even this Igbo, Yoruba people we are talking about. Yoruba was not homogeneous before. Before 400 years ago, Yoruba was nobody knew a Yoruba nation. It was Ijebus, it was Oyos, it was different groups of people. Same thing in Igbo land. There was no one homogeneous Igbo community. They didn't even know one another before. The same thing in the north. There was no homogeneous north. That no, every town, everything, they had their own. And if breaking down doesn't mean if we go to the west alone, we will be one. No, there might be infighting as well, and it's going to be wars. Everybody is going to be fighting one another and breaking down to smaller pieces.
Well, why do we? You see, maybe okay. Now, this is your view is that Nigeria should not be broken down.
Yeah.
There are people who argue that Nigeria should be broken down to manageable chunks.
Yeah.
These are conflicting school of thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't there be a convergence point? Why is it that it appears impossible for the government, having seen that these decibels in sounds are basically increasing per minute? What is then impossible for government to bring these various opinions to a point of agreement? Many people will tell you that the Constitution that you alluded to is the opening paragraph or opening sentence says, we the people, but the people never agreed. Dr. Njenje on this platform has once said that as of the time President Olusegun Obasanjo was being sworn in, there was no constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So the constitution was brought afterwards for obvious reasons. Yeah. The question is, if the constitution that says we the people have blah, 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 mm-hmm. which is predicated on lie, because the people did not agree on that constitution, isn't it time for the government to begin to look at how to unite and bring this country together?
I agree with you, but I also want to say, that's narrative that is being spread in Nigeria, that Nigerian peoples never came together to agree to live together. And that's why we cannot be united, because we were never agreed. Nobody asked us. Well, the same thing.
So did we agree?
The same thing you could say of England. The same thing you could say of America. The same thing you could say of England, Germany. The same thing you could say of France. All these people were, if France was a little kingdoms, little Germany, it was less than 200 years ago when they were just united. All of them were broken. No country ever came together to say we want to become one country.
No. But there was negotiation.
And then we will form a constitution. Germany. Constitutions always come later on. Most of those countries that you see, either it's Germany or France, they used to fight among themselves before. And it is later on they develop their constitution.
So why can't we do ours now? Is 20 years not enough?
Yeah, I think if let's say this government has failed, let's vote in another government that will come in and do that and do the will of the people. So I don't think we should just break now and then No, let's bring out another group of people. Let's vote in another government, another leader that will listen to us and do what we want. But instead of just saying, let's destroy everything. No, I think that is a very bad way to go.
Okay, so if you were to advise the Yoruba Nation agitators now, thousands of them watching across social media platforms, what would be your thoughts to them?
I would tell them, bring your heads together, do your politicking well, and try to get your own person to the government. You vote for your person. Go and lobby the Hausas, go and lobby the Igbos or the South people, and let them vote for your own person that you believe in. And then make him to do your will. The same thing, Igbos have always been smarter politically than the Yorubas. From my own study of Nigerian history. This is the only time in history, in the history of modern Nigeria, where Yoruba people have been able to get it and been in alliance with another group of people to be in power. Before, the First Republic, they were saying, Awolowo was saying, no, we're going to be in the opposition. But the Igbos aligned with the Northerners and they formed the government. In the Second Republic, the same thing happened. The Yorubas are going to say, no, we want only Awolowo. We are not going to. They couldn't unite, not with the North, not with the East. East again, Igbos again got it together with the North. Now, during the Obasanjo time, Yorubas again said no, even though he's their own son, no, they said, no, we are not going to vote for him. Then the North and the rest of Nigeria voted Obasanjo in.
So isn't that an irony that the Yoruba nation, for the first time, got into alliance with the North, to use the word.
For the first time in the history of Nigeria.
Exactly. And the same Yoruba nation are now saying we were duped, and that's why we are protesting.
No, it's not true. It is only a fraction.
Why are they protesting?
It is only a fraction of Yoruba people. Most people in Yoruba land don't support that movement. It's not as widespread in Yoruba land like maybe Biafra in the East, for example. Most Yorubas are still against, doing a Yoruba nation. We know it will not work. Most educated Yorubas, elite Yorubas, will not support it. It's just somebody that came up and is using, and then the people in diaspora also, they are trying to use it,
So is Professor Banji Akintoye not educated enough to know?
Sorry?
Is Professor Banji Akintoye?
Professor Banji, he always says that it was not only the last few months of their campaign when he started agreeing that, okay, we'll go do our own nation. But before, in the beginning, if you listen to his speeches, he was always saying he's for restructuring. It was later on that he changed. I think it was manipulated. Personally, I think it was manipulated.
Well, on the politics, that's a very fine place to leave it. But before I let you go, Pastor, let's come to something some may consider a little bit controversial. Obviously, while we are speaking, many people have been wondering, why is it this thing with pastors and jets? What's your view?
Pastors and jets?
Yes, private jets, especially the Nigerian Pentecostal pastors and private jets. They appear to be 5 and 6.
I would not have anything against jets if these pastors had their businesses, their industries, their companies, and they made profit out and outside of the church to buy those jets. I will not have anything against it. But when we are taking offering, tithe and offering, and if you can afford it, by the way, if you can afford a private jet, what on earth still makes you to still keep on taking tithe and offering? Because what it takes to sustain a private jet one day, every night, is more than what anybody in Nigeria could afford. So if you can afford private jet, why are you still collecting tithe and offering from people? That is where I have disagreement with my colleagues in religion. That how can I don't even still understand it. Why are we collecting tithe and offering from the poor, and then we are not giving it back to them?
So
we are building edifices and we are building, buying jets. How? Where is our conscience?
In your church, you don't collect tithe and offering.
We do, but we don't make it we don't make it compulsory. It is not compulsory and it is not mandatory. You know, in Nigeria, it's not just tithe and offering people collect. They collect first offering, second offering, third offering. But in our church, you don't need to. You don't have to give. The only thing we do
do you have register of those who pay and who do not?
No, how could you do that? To do that is manipulation.
So you never preach about tithe and offering?
I preach about tithe. I just say tithe is a symbol of the fact that each one of us, whatever we make, we shouldn't just eat everything by ourselves. So give a fraction of it. If it's going to be 1%, 2%, 10%. In the Old Testament, it was 10%. Just for you to be able to, but use it to give, to do good. So tithe and offering in our church is only supposed to be directed to take care of the less privileged people.
Okay.
And to meet the basic needs of the church. But that is what I'm concerned about. Because in the New Testament, Acts of the Apostles, it said there were no needy people among them. They used the tithe and offering to take care of the needs of all the people, such that there was no person who was in need.
So how is it best to pay tithe? I'll give you an example. I had a German evangelical pastor who said, if you earn $200 a month and your rent is $1,200, sorry, if you earn $2,000 a month and your rent is $1,200, your car insurance, whatever, your water bill, your gas bill, everything piles up to $1,800, meaning your leftover is $200. You should pay tax on 200, you should pay tithe on 200, not on 2,000, because if you do on 2,000, you will not have enough to live on. Is that correct?
That's exactly what we practice in our church. And that's what we preach. You don't preach, you don't pay tithe from your gross. You pay tithe from your net.
No, but even at that, that's obviously someone who gets 2,000 in the bank as a monthly pay probably has earned about 3,200 depending on the country.
Yes.
So you can consider that net, but again.
No, I'm talking about net, family net,
family net. Okay, not pay net. Okay.
Yeah, family net. So exactly what you said, that's what we do. You first of all have to meet your needs. Your children cannot be hungry and you tell me you are going to pay tithe. Your mother and father in the village cannot be hungry and you are telling me you are going to pay tithe. How can you be taking money to go and give to one pastor somewhere when you have not given to your mom and dad? You should make sure you take care of the people around you who are in need before you go and take anything to the church. That is the best way to give tithe and offering. Give it to the poor, the people who are in need of it, not to a church, not to a building.
Pastor, I think people watching online now, apparently I'm becoming a pastor. They are demanding my account so that they can pay their tithe.
It's their freedom. They should be able to have that freedom to take their tithe and offering to wherever they want.
Okay, I mean, it's because obviously that's now if we understand this the way you've just explained it, why do you think it is difficult for your colleagues, if I may use that word, in Nigeria to do same?
Because it's about mindset. They see people around them doing the same thing. They see their leaders and elders practice the same thing. So they just follow. So the younger pastors just follow the big ones. And the big ones they are following are the so-called successful pastors. So you just follow them. You think they cannot be wrong. It's just about practice. It's just about what they see around them. But we need to change that orientation.
Now, before I let you go, Pastor, you said that you are planning to eventually relocate to Nigeria. Do you have any time frame for that to happen?
No, I don't have time frame. No,
so
I would have liked to have time.
So what will happen before you? Is it when the government becomes good, when everything starts working, when we have running?
No. It's only about me. I have to settle all my issues here in Ukraine. I don't want to leave this country with an unfinished business so that people don't think that I'm not responsible. So I have to be able to put things in order here, and then I'll be ready to move.
It has been
maybe time frame. If you are talking of time frame, in the next maximum 5 years, not more than 5 years.
Wow. Okay. So it has been my pleasure to have you. It has been a fantastic conversation. I loved every bit of this conversation. I hope you do as well.
Yes.
You
really drilled me very well.
Thank you very much for being my guest today. I hope to have you some other time so that when we talk about other critical national issues. But it has been my pleasure to speak to Pastor Sunday Adelaja, who is the founder and senior pastor of the Embassy of Blessed Kingdom of God for All Nations, an evangelical charismatic megachurch and a Christian domination in Kyiv, Ukraine. A mentor to so many, an author of over 400 books that we talked about at the beginning. He is also a philosopher, motivational speaker. Once more, Pastor Sunday Adelaja, it has been my pleasure to have you here on Njenje Media TV. Thank you once more for being part of my guest.